Imagine walking into a room where a heated argument is unfolding. Voices rising, accusations flying, and instead of jumping in to defend yourself or explain your side, you simply sit there, calm, eyes steady, saying absolutely nothing. The energy in the room shifts. People glance at you, waiting for a reaction that never comes. The louder they get, the quieter you stay. And slowly, almost against their will, they start to unravel, filling the silence with more words, more justifications, more mistakes. That single moment captures the raw power most people never learn to wield: silence. After years of living, working, raising families, and navigating every kind of human drama, many of us eventually discover that the most commanding thing you can do in any room is often the simplest: say nothing at all. Today we're going to unpack why silence carries more psychological weight than any explanation ever could, and how mastering it can quietly change the way people treat you for the rest of your life. Silence creates pressure because it strips away certainty. When someone expects a defense, an apology, or even anger and gets nothing, the brain experiences a kind of void. Neuroscience shows us that humans are wired to fill uncertainty with meaning. The absence of response is uncomfortable. It activates the same circuits that handle anticipation, threat detection, and loss of control. In evolutionary terms, silence from a higher status individual was often a sign that consequences were coming, or that the other person simply didn't matter enough to warrant words. That ancient wiring still operates today. When you refuse to speak, you force the other person into the uncomfortable position of projecting their own fears, guilt, or insecurity onto the blank space you've left. Throughout history, true dominance has almost always been expressed through restraint rather than volume. Kings didn't shout orders, they spoke softly or not at all, and the court scrambled to interpret the smallest gesture. Military commanders who stayed composed while others panicked earned legendary status. In everyday social hierarchies, whether boardrooms, family tables, or community gatherings, the person who speaks least often holds the most sway. Restraint signals that you don't need to prove anything. You already know your position. The moment you open your mouth to justify yourself, you step down from that perch and enter the arena of negotiation. Silence keeps you above it. But silence is not the same as passivity. Passivity is avoidance born from fear. Silence can be aggressive, deliberate, and deeply intentional. A passive person withdraws to escape conflict. A powerful person uses silence to control it. There's a world of difference between someone who says nothing because they're scared and someone who says nothing because they choose to. The second version radiates presence. It's not empty, it's loaded. It communicates, I see you, I hear you, and I'm still not moved. That distinction is what separates quiet strength from weakness, and it's one that becomes clearer the longer you live and the more you've seen. When you stay silent, something fascinating happens psychologically. The other person is left alone with their thoughts and with the story they're telling themselves about why you're not responding. They begin to project. They fill the gap with their own assumptions, insecurities, and exaggerations. In doing so, they often reveal far more than they intended. A simple accusation that might have been brushed off with a quick explanation suddenly grows heavier when met with silence. The accuser starts over-explaining, backtracking, contradicting themselves. Silence turns their weapon back on them. It's one of the oldest and most effective forms of psychological leverage, used instinctively by people who understand human nature. This is why silence so reliably makes people reveal too much. The discomfort of an unanswered remark is almost unbearable for many. They feel compelled to relieve the tension by talking more, by justifying, by pleading for a reaction. The longer you hold silence, the greater the pressure builds. In some cases, people will confess things they never planned to say, offer concessions they hadn't considered, or simply walk away defeated. It's not manipulation in the sinister sense. It's simply allowing human nature to do what it does best: rush to fill uncomfortable emptiness. Professionals who deal with high-stakes conversations have known this for generations. Interrogators, hostage negotiators, elite salespeople, and seasoned leaders all use what's sometimes called the interrogation principle. After asking a question or making a statement, they stay quiet. They let the silence do the work. The person across from them feels the weight of that quiet space and usually starts talking to escape it. The less you say, the more they say. It's a principle that works equally well in boardrooms, family disputes, salary discussions, and even casual social tests. Silence isn't passive waiting, it's an active tool. Now compare that to explanation. The moment you explain, you lower your status. You move from judge to defendant. You hand the other person the right to evaluate your reasoning, poke holes in it, and keep demanding more. Silence, on the other hand, keeps you in the position of evaluator. It says, I don't need to justify myself to you. That single shift in frame changes everything. Words defend, silence commands. Silence is most powerful precisely in the moments when most people feel compelled to speak, when you're accused unfairly, when someone disrespects you with a sly comment, during tense negotiations, in the middle of an argument that's going nowhere, or when someone is testing your boundaries with passive-aggressive jabs. In all these situations, the instinctive reaction is to explain, defend, or counterattack. The strategic reaction is to pause, look them in the eye, and let the moment hang. 9 times out of 10, the other side will crack first. Of course, silence can also provoke aggression in some people, particularly those who are used to controlling interactions through noise and pressure. When they can't get a rise out of you, when they can't force you into their script, frustration builds. They may raise their voice, repeat themselves, or lash out. That anger is usually a sign of lost control, not strength. Let them expose it. Their outburst only reinforces your composure. But silence isn't foolproof. Poorly timed silence, when you look nervous, avoid eye contact, or fidget, can backfire and signal fear instead of power. The key is presence. Silence only works when it's paired with calm, grounded body language and the unmistakable aura of someone who is completely at ease with the tension. Without that, it reads as weakness. Timing is everything. Stay silent when the other person is emotional, fishing for a reaction, or trying to provoke you. Speak when you have something precise and final to say, something that ends the conversation on your terms. The rule is simple. Silence is strongest when it follows a clear demonstration of strength or competence, and weakest when it follows uncertainty or retreat. When you consistently choose measured silence over reactive speech, it eventually becomes part of your reputation. People start describing you as someone who doesn't waste words, someone who thinks before they speak, or simply someone you don't cross lightly. That reputation compounds over time. Doors open, favors are offered, respect deepens, all because others sense that your quiet is not emptiness, but deliberate choice. Mastering silence requires an internal shift that many people never make. Most of us talk to relieve our own anxiety, to prove we're right, to be liked, to avoid the discomfort of stillness. Breaking that habit means learning to sit with tension instead of running from it. It means trusting that your presence, your history, your competence speak louder than any frantic explanation ever could. For those who've lived long enough, this shift often feels like coming home to a quieter, more powerful version of yourself. And here is the final principle worth carrying with you. The quietest person in the room often controls it. Not because they're avoiding conflict, but because they understand that real power rarely needs to announce itself. It simply is. After all the noise of life, after all the arguments won and lost, after all the explanations that never quite satisfied, many of us arrive at the same truth. Sometimes the strongest statement you can make is no statement at all. Practice it, trust it, and watch how the world begins to bend, ever so slightly, in your direction.